was miserable too. Might as well be miserable and successful. Not really good at anything, just mediocre at a lot of things. Do something special before 30. The age I instantly die and expire. Hey, it's Nicole. Welcome to me talking nonstop at you and you not being able to say a thing. We have a great time. I've always struggled with comparison to some extent, like, oh, this girl has a dad. But recently it's morphed into something where I fixate on a specific person to envy. So, because I cannot stand having original thoughts, I started asking some friends, do you ever compare yourself to others? Thinking that was going to be relatable. And they said, no, not really.
Huh?
Like, oh, I have not ascended to your plane of existence. I thought comparing yourself to others was a universal experience, but now I just feel like I've bared my entire ass. So I feel envy and I'm trying to channel it positively, but it's hard. It feels poisonous and unproductive and embarrassing and ugly. I know there have to be more people who secretly feel the way I do, and I am determined to find them. I feel like I'm on some kind of reverse trajectory because I thought envy was something that you grow out of. I thought it was a teenager thing, but my strongest feelings of envy, especially the ones that fixate on a specific person, have actually been in my 20s. At first, there wasn't an obvious theme among the people I envied since they're pretty different from each other because I have range. But let me talk through the three and you see if you can figure out what they have in common. I've envied someone I've never met in my life, Bestdressed, this fashion and lifestyle YouTuber that I watched several years ago. I'm only naming her because she will never see this nor know I exist. At first, I really enjoyed her videos, even though I'm not into fashion, really. They're just really well done, and I liked her personality. Then at a certain point, it was like a switch flipped, and seeing her videos in my feed began to make me feel bad about myself, so I watched her less and less. Here I would like to say, envy is good information. First, it signifies dissatisfaction with something in your life. I always feel the worst pangs of envy when I'm unhappy with where I'm at, because when you're unhappy, you're especially vulnerable, and seeing other people just do better highlights the lack of that in your own life. During that time, I was depressed, I was feeling like a failure because a long-term project I had tied my identity to was a failure. I was struggling with binge eating, and I was just unhappy with my job. Not a great time. I felt so stuck, and Bestdressed, who I really admired and identified with, was seeing so much success.
Hi. Oh, hi. Can I get a phone? Yeah, sure.
And at first I loved seeing it, but ultimately it got to me. If you feel envious of someone, it means that that person has something you want. It's a good idea to move in the direction of your envy, but you do have to make sure that you've thought beyond the surface level. With Bestdressed, I didn't actually want to become a fashion YouTuber or look like her. I just saw that she was achieving something that she had worked really hard towards and everything was paying off. I knew from watching her videos that she was actually very lonely despite her growing community, but it was like, I do not see it. Like, I was miserable too. Might as well be miserable and successful. But it's not just celebrities or public figures. I've also envied a friend. This one was the hardest by far. Feeling bad when things were going really well for her made me feel like a terrible friend for not being 100% happy for her, because she had been a great friend to me, and yet I was feeling secretly envious of the good things in her life. I was happy for her, but it didn't feel pure. So I pushed myself to never let it show and be extra supportive and show up for her and suppress those inner feelings. But they didn't go away, and I still hated myself for it. This friend was someone that everyone thought was cool. So did I. I mean, she came across as confident and self-assured, which are both traits that I really admired and wanted. And it wasn't like I actually wanted to be her. I've never actually wanted to become somebody else. I just wanted to cherry pick all the good parts of her life. I knew her struggles, but just like Bestdressed,
Exhausting to be seen all the time. It's sometimes nice to just feel like you disappear a little bit.
knowing that didn't really change how I felt, which was, deep down, that I wasn't good at anything or interesting enough, which is a thought that felt amplified next to her. Finally, I have envied a second-degree connection, aka friend of a friend. Shout out LinkedIn, hell on earth. This person I had also never met, but we run in adjacent circles. And I envied her because she is also a newer content creator, except she's like doing well. I started this channel in 2020 and I left mid-2021 for 2 years to come back last month, January 2024, and understandably not a lot of subscribers are left. I am so thankful for those of you who stayed, really. I just don't know sometimes if I'm on the right path, you know? I feel so far away from where I want to be. I feel ashamed that it took me so long to come back. I feel like I wasted so much time. So I'm just projecting my own guilt and shame and regret for not being brave enough like others are to pursue their dreams. I think it's helpful to figure out what the dimensions are of comparing yourself to others and what that underlying belief is. Primarily, I compare achievement. I spent my life feeling like I was not really good at anything, just mediocre at a lot of things, and not passionate about anything because I'd start a lot of things and then just give up. I feel at once like I need to do something special, which is an ego thing, right? To think that you're special, but also doubt that I can do something special. I tie my self-worth to achievement, but in the areas that I care about. Like, I've never cared to climb the corporate ladder or about degrees or prestigious professions. But that doesn't mean I only envy people who share my direct goals. What's absurd is I even feel a little envy for gymnasts. Even though I have no desire or talent, sorry, I forgot about that one. My bad. To become a gymnast, I envy that they're so good at what they do, working hard to achieve their dreams, and they're being recognized for it. My next big comparison is traits that I wish I had. I feel like a very fearful and cautious person, so things like bravery, things like being an eloquent speaker and being able to speak off the cuff and come up with witty comebacks, things like charisma or being naturally outgoing. A dimension I feel like is the reverse trajectory for me is appearance. I never used to really care about my appearance. I didn't really perceive myself, well, period. But also, I didn't perceive myself as attractive because I just didn't think about it, which in hindsight is such a blessing, right? It feels like a teenage problem again, but weirdly now it's become something for me in my 20s. Part of it, I think, is being in content creation, seeing how beauty is this huge advantage. It's seeing my face all of the time, like dissecting it. One of these days I'll talk more about face dysmorphia. And then finally, even age comes up. I'm not old. I don't think other people my age are too old, but I have looked at successful people younger than me and felt behind in life. I have somehow internalized the ridiculous idea that I need to do something special before 30, the age I instantly die and expire. Here's something I've learned recently. What I envy, especially in the 3 people I discussed, is actually less these dimensions and more the external validation and acceptance that they are receiving. Achievement, personality traits, beauty, it all boils down to I see that they are doing well and other people think that they're doing well. This means that they are worth something. If you're thinking, wow, that sounds very toxic, join the club. Fight club for my demons. Where have you been? Like, I always knew the way I thought was wrong or harmful, but it never stopped me from thinking the thoughts. With envy especially, the worst thing you can do is try to fight it head on. Trying not to think a thought will just make it more intrusive. It's called the pink elephant effect, where once something is mentioned, it's hard to get out of your head. So if you're gonna have to go through these thoughts, you might as well go willingly. Journaling helps here, and I've heard that actually scheduling some time to fully obsess and think about the feeling or intrusive thoughts is helpful in the long term, even if it feels terrible in the short term. Just get it out of your system. People always say to counteract envy, remember that the grass is always greener, and honestly, that doesn't help me that much. It might help you to recognize that everyone has their struggles, but for me, what actually helps is redirecting focus and or getting some distance. For Best Dressed, I needed to take a break from her videos. For someone in real life, you might need to spend a little less time with them for a while and really focus your time on something you want to change your circumstances and become more secure. Also, avoid falling into the trap of why. It's helpful to examine what you envy in other people to get a sense of what you want, but that's what and not why. Why, like, why am I constantly comparing myself to others, has a lot of attached judgment. It's hard to see, but it's there. Judging yourself for a natural feeling will only make you feel bad about it and further hurt your self-esteem and motivation. Social comparison is a natural human behavior strategy. Thus, comparing yourself to other people can be useful. Before, we had to assess our abilities to keep up with our communities. Comparison drives self-improvement. But if you do it too often or too selectively, you lose an objective view of where you actually are. It's like, I'm the benchmark, so anyone better than me at something is good, and anyone worse than me is bad. So I'll never be good enough or see my own progress. If you're like me in that sense, it might help to intentionally engage in two other types of comparison. So one is downward, where you compare yourself to people who do not have something that you have, and comparing yourself to yourself. You really are the only person that you can compare yourself to. Everyone else has such a different life and different interests, so what other people are doing just ultimately doesn't mean much. You don't want exactly what they have, unless it's like enough money to cover your basic needs. Otherwise, if you got exactly what they had, you still wouldn't be satisfied because that's somebody else's journey and someone else's dream. When I was deep in the throes of envy, I wanted so badly to channel it positively into motivation, like how some people use spite or anger as fuel to become better. Instead of feeling so bad, I end up not doing anything and worsening the cycle. But ultimately, and annoyingly, it all comes down to self-compassion. Take it from me, okay? I'm a professional. A professional not in any licensed or accredited way. I just mean I put the overthinking hours in. It's okay to feel envy. You don't need to be ashamed, and it won't serve you. All you can do is look toward where the envy is pointing, note the direction, and try your best to focus on yourself and how far you have come and how far you will go. All right. Thanks for watching. If you got anything out of this video, please watch another and make sure to fight me in the comments. This is the second oversharing type of video that I've done, so I would love to know what you think. Bye!